Harp on Sports, The Bar, Podcast Media, Audio, Radio, and Network. Follow, share, like, subscribe at Harp on Sports, Twitter and Instagram. Harp on Sports, The Bar, available for you via podcast, Buzzsprout, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Harp on Sports, of course, the Facebook page, YouTube channel, and harponsports.com. What do we have in store for you on this edition? A little Jawan's jab, a combine boycott lurking, and with the NBA All-Star Game, the Pro Bowl taking place in the last few weeks, and basically nothing but complaining about both of these things from fans. And then you add the Olympics, which is one of the least viewed Olympics, percentage-wise, ever. A little specialness, now sidelined. So we're going to look at that as well. Let's start off with Juwan Howard first. And this thing has multiple layers to it, but the icing on this cake is the only thing that matters. Coaches can't be throwing punches against other coaches. You just can't do it. Well, hands were put on him first. Went through and looked at the timeline of this. I probably watched that video 15, 20 times. And Juwan Howard didn't backtrack at all after the game, and you could sit there as well. He's standing by his convictions. Well, his convictions are wrong. Okay? Now, he can be upset because, was it Gard touched him, and he didn't touch him in a violent way. He just kind of put his hand on his arm like, listen, coach, Juwan Howard didn't like it. That's fine. I don't like when people touch me either. I get that. I get that. But Gard touching him, Juwan Howard grabbing him by the, well, what would you call it? Shirt? Pullover? They were separated. Then the assistant coach, want to make sure I get his name right, Joe Krabenhoff, comes in and Juwan punch slaps him. Okay. And Juwan Howard after the game said, well, somebody touched me and put hands on me, so that's how I reacted. No, you didn't. The grabbing of Gard, his pullover, his shirt or whatever you want to call it, was your reaction to that. Getting separated and getting caught up and not being able to control your emotions is the punch slap on Joe Krabenhoff. Michigan reacted quickly, saying, no, we basically, this isn't going to happen anymore. You had the Big Ten come out and say, hey, look, we're going to take care of this. So it's not exactly the same, but it reminds me a little bit of the Mason Rudolph, Myles Garrett situation, where regardless of what happened and the initial altercation, Myles Garrett tried to brain. He did. He tried to brain Mason Rudolph. And then the reaction from that was, well, you know what? He was caught up in the moment. Okay, he's caught up in the moment. But you still have consequences for your action. What's the line that Brad Pitt says in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood when he's fighting the Bruce Lee character? When he says, my fists are registered weapons. If I kill you, I could go to jail. It's like you kill anybody on accident, you go to jail. It's called manslaughter. Well, the same thing in this thing. Well, you know what? You put your hands on me, so I reacted, and I threw the punch. Well, not at the guy that touched you. You threw the punch at the assistant coach. Well, he didn't punch him. He punch slapped him. Well, okay. So if his fist would have been balled up, fireable, but the fact that his fist was open 2 games? Well, no. You can't strike somebody else. You can't punch somebody else, especially when you're separated. Well, you've never been in those situations. Of course I have. I've been in brawl fights and fights like that and in bars and, just athletic events. Never quite to that extent, but where people are getting separated. And when you're a coach and you make that mistake, all Juwan Howard had to do after the game was come out and say, look, I didn't like what happened at the end of the game. Although something Juwan Howard did actually didn't help that situation. Everybody talks about how Gard shouldn't have used the timeout at the end with under 30 seconds to go. Oh, okay. But Juwan Howard and Michigan were full court pressing. So if you're going to sit there, the game's over. Well, what are you full court pressing though? We're just playing hard-nosed basketball down the end. Okay, I'm calling a timeout so I don't get a 10-second call. I'm calling a timeout so I can reset the play clock or the shot clock. You don't get to full court press. I'm struggling getting the ball in bounds. You're trying to force a turnover. If I'm coaching, I'm competitive. I'm like, wait a second, we're going to reset this. If you're still competing, this is the equivalent at the end of a game of I've got my subs in. I'm up 2 touchdowns and you're full house blitzing my guys. It's like, no. Hold on here. What are you doing? So Juwan Howard, they were full court pressing. They were full court pressing the reserves for Wisconsin with under a minute to go. So where exactly? Well, I don't like what you did. Well, you can full court press then at that point? You're down 20 points. What are you doing? We're down 15 points. What are you doing? So it's one of these things that should have Gard touched him? No, he shouldn't have. I understand why Jawaan was upset, but you're also full court pressing. The rules get to apply to both guys, right? You can't sit there and say, you're calling timeouts under a minute ago. I don't like that. Well, you're full court pressing. We can't get the ball in bounds. What do you want us to do? We're struggling getting the ball up the court. Regardless of that, you cannot punch an assistant coach, then punch slap, that had nothing to do with the altercation. You just can't. So what should happen to Jawaan? And I went through and looked at all of these things from every angle. Jawaan at that point was separated and pushed back almost into the chairs by his own players. And then he came over the top and hit him. That's the guy that is supposed to be leading and representing your program. Punching, hitting guys. What do I think is going to happen? I think Juwan Howard's done for the year. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Juwan Howard's going to be suspended for the rest of the regular season and likely the Big Ten tournament. That's what I would do. If I were the Big Ten, I'd come out and say, Michigan, you whatever. And this is one of these things without an NCAA governing body, and individual schools don't want a czar or somebody that oversees, a commissioner that oversees their sports for this particular reason. Coaches always, we're handling this discipline internally. Okay. How do you handle discipline internally when your head coach is the one that needs to be disciplined? Athletic director does it. Now, people saying he should be fired, should he? You can make a case for it, you bet. Dude hit a guy that had nothing to do with the altercation. It was the assistant coach. And then to do a post-game press conference where you're like, well, you know what? Here's why I was upset. Well, you still can't hit people. And if you're going to sit there and say, oh, he got caught up in the moment. Oh, okay. Then if you can punch another coach that didn't have anything to do with your initial altercation, what can't you do? It goes back to the Myles Garrett situation. A couple years ago now, but Myles Garrett brains Mason Rudolph with a helmet. Like, oh, he got caught up in the moment. It was he was mad because Mason Rudolph hit him and shoved him. You don't understand. Well, okay, well then can he go get the first down marker and jab it in his eye? Well, no. Okay, well what exactly can you do then? What can't you do? Using a football helmet as a weapon, and Myles Garrett lost the rest of the year for it, and he should have. Lost millions of dollars for it, and he should have. Juwan Howard needs to lose the rest of the season because of it. Like, he'll leave then and go to the NBA. Then he goes to the NBA. John Beilein got you to a couple national championship games. And Michigan's a good football or a good basketball program. They'll figure it out. A lot of good coaches out there. You can figure it out. And it's obvious in the post-game press conference that Juwan Howard didn't realize the gravity of what he did. If he'd have come out and said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, I got caught up. I didn't like the fact that he touched me. I got caught up. It's unacceptable what I did. I shouldn't have hit him. But to come out and say, that's why I did it. I don't like somebody put hands on me. So you hit somebody that didn't put the hands on, so you could hit whoever. You could hit whoever. What if he'd have punched the trainer? What if he'd hit another player? A player from Wisconsin. Just not mature enough for the situation. Just not. And all he had to do at that point is when, after Gard had touched his shoulder and he had grabbed him by the shirt and they were separated, that was it. But then to punch slap the assistant coach, that's it. So, to me, again, what do we have? 4 games left in the regular season. He's out for those, and he's out for the Big Ten tournament. And somehow, if they make the NCAA tournament, welcome back. If they make the NIT, welcome back. That's what I would do. And if you don't like it, then quit. Because you can't have this. What do I think is going to happen? I think Michigan's going to, I think he's going to be suspended for the rest of the regular season. I think he'll be back for the Big Ten tournament. I think he's going to lose 4 games. But think about if you don't suspend him. Then the next game there's an altercation and he does hurt somebody. Then what? Then what? So, bye-bye, Juwan. Can't do that. Just can't. And I see everybody coming out and saying, and it's funny looking at social media, seeing they're saying, well, then you had a white man that put his hand on a black guy. Oh God, guys, he didn't hit that guy. He hit the other guy. It got nothing to do with it. What's that coach running in there for? Who knows? But so he can punch him? So he can punch him? So you run in there and you say something to me so I can hit you? Then a Michigan player, if somebody from Wisconsin says something to him, a Michigan player can punch him? Where do you draw the line? You can't. No excuse for it. You got to be better than that. You got to be bigger than that. You cannot do it. Cannot do it. So there's that. A couple other things. The Olympics are over. From the American standpoint, from the United States standpoint, it was, I try to watch some of the Olympics. I watched Team USA and Canada play in the second or third period, and I watched it like out of the corner of my eye while I was doing work. Other than that, like I saw some, I didn't watch any figure skating. Speed skating, I just didn't watch any of it. And that was weird for me. Now, why? Well, I was busy. I had a lot going on. We all do, right? But the Olympics were always one of those things that there was some pride in Team USA. I can't think of too many athletes that were showcased. And you'd think in this day and age with Twitter and social media and individual branding, people would be everywhere. You know, America's sweetheart, whoever your figure skaters are. You know, the NHL players brought some excitement to the Winter Olympics, but it wasn't, let's stop. Oh my gosh, I'm going to watch this. It just, you know, it's been 20 plus years now. I know the professionals weren't in it this year, but even going back to the Summer Olympics, you had people openly rooting against Team USA basketball because of their woke culture and their, oh my God. Okay. It's still shocking to me how many Americans love their version of America, but hate other Americans. This melting pot with all these different thoughts and ideas and the First Amendment and everything that coalesces in this gigantic melting pot. But people hate other Americans that don't agree with them, even though they're on opposite sides of the scale. It's a taste great, less filling thing. I don't care about any Americans' politics. I'd like to see them succeed. I don't openly root against Americans. But that's where we are now when it comes to this. Well, the Olympics are what? What? Huh? And, you know, not only that, because we just don't have much American pride when it comes to our athletes. We don't. Team USA, I think around other countries, Team USA used to mean something. We don't support our own country in international sports. Maybe a little bit. Men's and women's soccer a little bit with the World Cup. We have a little American pride when it comes to that. That's about it. World Baseball Classic? No. Team USA? No. Just don't. It's kind of sad. But you snowball that and you package that with, I mentioned the Summer Olympics and everybody rooting openly against Team USA basketball. And you also had the Pro Bowl in football. I hate the Pro Bowl. I don't want to watch it anymore. Okay. NBA All-Star Game. I was checking out Twitter. Oh my, this is terrible. No defense. It's awful. Well, look. They tried it in baseball so it was competitive, and everybody complained and bitched and moaned about that. Okay, well, you don't like that because it was competitive. Shouldn't be. Okay. Football, they don't play defense. What do you really, really want? How many quarterbacks would be in there if you could blitz? And could you imagine for 1 second Patrick Mahomes played in the Pro Bowl and broke his foot? No quarterback would ever play in it again. You'll just get rid of it. Why? You still watch it. People still watch it. It's the highest rated event on TV that week. The Pro Bowl outdraws every single television show. So why do we get rid of it? We make money on it. Well, it's because it's embarrassment. No, we make money on it. You may think it's an embarrassment, but they make money on it. Doesn't matter what you think. It matters what you consume. If you go to a fast food restaurant, eat a hamburger, oh, this is terrible, then go back the next day and buy it. Eat there again. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. And then the NHL All-Star Game. People complain about that. The thing is, the competitive nature of these things have ended. With the exception of baseball. Now, basketball dribbling back and forth, it's a skill set. It's a showcase. But what made these unique and special 30, 40 years ago, and it's why it's different now, is every game's on TV. I get to watch almost everything. I consume everything on social media. I can follow every single team on social media. I know what's going on. Fantasy, sports, and football, you consume every single game. NFL Sunday Ticket, you get everything. So if I get every single game and I get every single thing all year long. I remember when I was a kid, I was a Chiefs fan because they were always in the West Coast. It was always like ready for this? That's how long ago this was. It was always the Sunday afternoon game on NBC. Because the CBS game was always the Bears, NFC. Colts were on at 1 and the Chiefs were on at 4. I got to see the Chiefs play maybe 4 times a year, maybe. And I loved them. I loved watching them. It was great. Now I can see all 16, 17. I can see them all. So the specialness, I can watch highlights. So seeing guys in the All-Star, it's like I see them all the time. I remember how big of a deal it was when I was a kid. We went to a Cubs game and the Dodgers played. It's like, oh, the Dodgers. I never get to see the Dodgers. This is neat. Oral Hershites. This is neat. Now it's like, whatever. Not every night. I can go to Dodgers.com, watch highlights. I can go to their Twitter page, watch it all. So specialness is now sidelined. The Olympics, Team USA, When I was a kid, it was always the United States versus Russia. Who do we compete against now? It's funny. We tell every country to kiss our you-know-what. We hate this country. We hate this country. How dare you? Everyone would change French fries to freedom fries because of what France did to us. And all of these things. No, they don't matter. We just don't care. We don't care. We don't care. Well, it's because we love our own sports. We didn't 20 years ago. We didn't 30 years ago. Celtics fans didn't exist 30 years ago. People that love their NFL teams didn't exist 30 years ago. There weren't Niner fans and Cowboys fans. Nope. Just the specialness has been sidelined on those things. One to wrap with the NFL Combine and how there's athletes boycotting it, or there's talk, 150 agents, I want to get that number right, 150 agents, and a bunch of the elite players are going to go there and get their medical evaluations, right? X-rays, get prod and prided. What's going on? Get physicals. Look at MRIs, look at everything, make sure you're structurally sound. Then athletes aren't going to work out. They don't like the bubble. They don't like the fact that they don't have access to their trainers and their coaches. Look, I wouldn't either. If I were a receiver or a running back and my 40 time means everything and my evaluation means everything, and I don't have my trainer, and I could be, especially if I'm a running back, because running backs don't get to go in the first round very often, right? But if I'm a receiver and I can go in the first round and get that extra money, and first round money as opposed to second round money is everything, and the extra year of the contract, and good gracious, if I can't have my trainer and I can't have my person with me, my coaches, you're going to bubble me up and make it uncomfortable, and I need to impress. I'm not doing that. I'll wait for my pro day. If you're going to set, you can't let these athletes around their coaches and their trainers. Well, we have health concerns and health risks. Okay. I could get COVID and I get it. But if you were in a bubble with your own people, that's fine. If you got to go to the athletes and say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to put you and your trainers and all this group together. So let's say, you 8 guys have the same agent and you have your trainers, you're all together. Well, if that guy's a trainer there and has it, then you're going to have to find a way to pod these guys off. So they're all with each other. But if I were an athlete, I'd boycott it too. They haven't been in the league. They have the right to do this. People skip the combine all the time. And the only thing that matters here is the medical evaluation. Almost everything else is just like a showcase, right? The Senior Bowl, it's the medical evaluations. Learning, can you adapt to drills? The Senior Bowl game doesn't mean anything, but the actual practices leading up do. Same thing here, the medical evaluation, the interviews, those matter. They know what you can do as a football player. They see on film. Now, 40 times can bump you or drop you a little bit. Manti Te'o dropped because of it. Darius Hayward-Bay shot up the board because of it. Different guys have moved because of the 40 time and have been impressed throwing. Yeah, I get it. But I'm a receiver, a running back, defensive back, and speed is one of those big things with me. And you aren't going to allow me around my trainers and coaches? I'm not going to be a part of that. Why would you? Good for the players. Harp Sports, the Bar, Podcast Media, Audio, Radio Network. Follow, share, like, subscribe on all those platforms. At Harp Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Of course, you can consume us Spotify, Buzzsprout, and Apple Podcasts, Harp on Sports, the YouTube channel, Harp on Sports, the Facebook page, and harponsports.com. Remember, stay clean, stay focused, stay strong. Frankenstein. Have fun with your friends.